Yeah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is another lecture. We call it Respiratory Chain for the third level, semester 3 for medicine, university, Nile University. Yeah, what we mean by respiratory chain? So let us see the first slides. We talk about what is a bioenergetic. Bioenergetic. That means the energy in living systems, environment, an organism, plant or animal that utilize them. That's the animal or any living organism that utilize the energy. We call it bioenergetic. Bioenergetic. This just show you how we move, how we use the energy. Energy either be kinetic or potential. So what we mean by kinetic? Kinetic, that means movement, energy of motion. Sorry. Heat and light energy are example of kinetic energy. Kinetic, that means movement. Another one is a potential energy. Potential energy, that means in a position. Energy that is stored in chemical bonds. Stored in the chemical bonds, chemical reaction. They can produce a potential energy. Chemical. Metabolic reaction is two types: catabolism and anabolism. What's the metabolism? Metabolism is the total sum of the chemical activity of the cell. That is a simple definition of metabolism. That is the sum of the chemical activity, whatever it's the reaction, releasing or storing inside the cells. Like the biochemistry. Biochemistry is the study of the chemistry of living organisms. Study of the molecules of living organisms. So it can be catabolic or anabolic. Anabolic, that means building up. Metabolic reaction which consume energy. They need energy. Energenic, that means they use energy to build up complicated molecule from similar compound. Example, photosynthesis. Photosynthesis, for example, CO2, H2O, in the presence of the light of the energy, they can give you C6, which is we call it sucrose, or an oxygen will be released. That is simply endogenic reaction. Another type is catabolic. That means breaking down of reaction. That means release energy, exergenic, by breaking down complex molecule in simple compound. Example is cell respiration. So photosynthesis is another building giving macromolecule. Cellular respiration is breaking down complex molecule to give simplest compound with release of energy. For example, glucose will produce CO2, H2O. Cellular energy, for example, ATP. As I told you previously, that ATP is a hard currency. It's a real. So energy, it is ATP already stored. Energy stored is ATP. What is the ATP? Adenosine triphosphate, composed of adenine, that is the base, nitrogenous base, ribose, and phosphate group. It's like, for example, in the DNA. DNA is the same way there is nucleotide. Here ATP, almost adenosine triphosphate. That's the structures. Base, ribose, and phosphate group, 3 phosphate group. So when we're breaking down the ATP, we produce adenosine diphosphate or adenosine monophosphate, and we release, energy. And this is called phosphorylation. We call it phosphorylation. So respiration is another way around. It's a phosphorylation of ATP, producing energy. Occur continuously in the cells by enzyme ATPase. That's an enzyme needed for breaking down ATP to produce, energy and release phosphate group. That simple like that. So how ATP do cells use? Oh, we need millions, or approximately we need tens millions per molecule of ATP per second. So much amount of energy now breaking down in our cells. Charging your mobiles, and after that you uncharge it. So you use it. Coupled reaction of ATP. So it is an exergenic hydrolysis of ATP coupled with endogenic dehydration process by transferring a phosphate group to another molecule. So it is متلازمات زي ما بيقولوا. and في exergenic زي another endergenic. Exergenic releasing energy, endergenic use that energy. When you produce energy, we use energy. This symbolize that ATP to become ADP, and the phosphate group almost used for another building up. Hydrolysis of ATP, as I told you, ATP will leave ADP with exergenic, adenosine diphosphate become adenosine triphosphate become diphosphate. Energy, yes, energy used by the cells. Dehydration of ATP. I think so it is already duplicated. And yes, that's very important slide. How many energy need stored in man? How many energy? This is just a slide show you, for example, from fat how we got it. So you say fat can produce energy for you as 34 days. That's why. How long the human can live in fasting state? That means if you lost, for example, in the desert and you have just only water, how long it will be survive? So the fat in your body, they can give you an energy until, for example, 1 month you can live. But without water, if the dehydration, you become having the shrinking of the cells and you will die. But if you got it, energy, you almost have. So if you just lost in the desert place, just stay where you are. Don't walk. If you walk, that means you consume more energy. Only if you are running, you only will live for 3 days. So staying is better. So muscle glycogen provides 350 grams, liver glycogen only 80, blood extracellular, body protein if you 600. So what is that? Is simply what you look at it. When you are starving, how much energy you produce? First, what you are depending. For example, blood glucose is consumed 10 to 12 hours, and after that, what's the alternative? You need it in your body. When you consume glucose, blood glucose, glycogen, for example, in the muscle or in the liver, and after that you will go alternative to go for the fat. You consume fat. When you consume fat, you will go for the macromolecule called ketone bodies. You use the ketone bodies. Then you go to the protein. You're breaking down your own body. Respiratory chain almost happening in inner mitochondrial membrane. Powerhouse. Mitochondria is called powerhouse. So most constituents of the respiratory chain are embedded in inner mitochondria membrane. So look at this is the mitochondria. Where is it? The inner membrane you found respiratory chain. Electron transport chain. This is a long story. It's very important. Any energy, any diet you read it, it's breaking down. Go to the acetyl-CoA, go to the Krebs cycle will go to the respiratory chain to produce energy. That is the ultimate goal, to give energy. So you use energy for walking, for thinking, for heart pumping, for so everything you use energy for what that's stored as in ATP. So energy-rich molecules such as glucose are metabolized by a series of oxidation reaction called, what do you call it? We call it glycolysis. Glycolysis is the breakdown of glucose to the pyruvate. Then from the pyruvate, they go through the acetyl-CoA, they enter the Krebs cycle, then into respiratory chain. How many ATP produced from 1 mole of glucose? You remember it? So think on it. We know that glycolysis, how many ATP produced from glycolysis, and how many ATP produced from final breakdown of glucose to the CO2 and H2O. You answer it. The metabolic intermediate of this reaction donate electrons to specific coenzymes. That's why nicotine amide adenine dinucleotide NAD and flavin adenine dinucleotide fat. That's very important to electron donors that they carry the energy. And this we call it coenzymes. This reduced coenzyme can in turn each donate a pair of electrons to a specialized set of electron carrier collectively called as electron transport chain. They carrying this electron through the electron transport chain to produce energy as ATP. So they go pass down the electron transport key, they lost much of their free energy. That's why, look at this. We have macromolecules, nucleotide, protein, polysaccharide, lipids, and fats. They will break down to the simple nucleotides, amino acids, sugar, fatty acids. They break down through the glycolysis, through the bad beta oxidation. We will study it, inshallah, the coming lectures. Amino acid deamination, they go for Krebs cycle. From Krebs cycle, they go to the metabolic growth as a respiratory chain to produce CO2, H2O. It's very important slide. We call it this oxidative respiration since end of the pyruphate. So respiratory chain and oxidative phosphorylation is a couple, both reducing equivalent. You see, glycolysis, pyruvate will go for Krebs cycle. They will give energy. And this dehydrogen oxidation phosphorylation, transfer of hydrogen from one substrate to another, and coupled oxidation reduction reaction. These dehydrogen are nicotine amide NAD or nicotine amide phosphate. This will happen in the lipids metabolism. So any NAD will produce 3 ATP, fat will produce only 2 ATP. Electron transport chain. Electrons are removed from the hydrogen atoms carried by NAD or fat coming from the citric acid cycle or Krebs cycle, are oxidized via electron transport chain by molecular oxygen to form a water. So oxygen is very important as a final acceptor for respiratory chain. Oxygen is that's why respiration is very important. If you have no oxygen, no energy will produce. Just let yourself no consuming oxygen. If you stop for respiration, that means you will be dying because no energy produced. Oxygen is very important. So oxidative phosphorylation is the process in which ATP is formed as a result of transfer of electron from NAD, FAD to oxygen by a series of electron transport chain. Component of respiratory chain, they have a component complex 1, for example, complex 2, 3, 4. Each one they have a component for respiratory. The very important one is the cytochromes. Cytochrome oxidase, cytochrome C is very important as the acceptor for the final acceptor for oxygen. This is why some chemicals they can block the respiratory chain. وقف التنفس. That means you will be dying. So somebody for example sanitation, you can stop your oxygen by using some chemicals. That's why it's very important slide. Please look at it to see how respiration chain is happening. Electric, it's a final, as I told you, it's a component. It's a 5 components. The final is the cytochrome C. The remainder of the free energy not trapped as ATP is due to drive the ancillary reactions such as the calcium channel transporters. Any energy need or heat, some energy will be used for the heat. Respiratory these complexes, complex 1, name NAD dehydrogenase, complex 2, 3, 4 cytochrome oxidase, as I told you is very important, is the final acceptor for oxygen. Uncoupling of respiratory chain and phosphorylation. How to stop? So they say it is wasteful oxidation of substance without commitment of ATP synthesis. That means you stop oxidation is going on but no energy produced. This is uncoupling. The free energy derived from the oxidation phosphorylation appear to be as a heat. So instead of giving energy, they will go as a heat. These are 4 type artificial or natural uncoupler. So this is uncoupler. It's very important. 2,4-dinitrophenol, DNB. Sometimes they use for cancer treatment. ionophores, inhibitor of ATP synthase, inhibitor of ATP ADP. All of these they can be used for stopping uncoupling reaction. Some people they use it for the weight loss. You use consume energy, not producing energy. Thermogenin is a natural uncoupler. This some people they eat much more, but they didn't get fat. They use this. They have some uncoupler natural produce that brown adipose tissue. It's occurring brown adipose tissue of newborn children and hibernating animals which spend in winter in a dormant state. Some animals they can live longer in the winter, so they can use this energy as only for the heat. So they bypass ATPase synthesis. Also, thyroid hormone enhances uncoupling reaction. Some people they have trimming, they have goiter, for example. These people they have a goiter, so they consume energy, losing energy. Brown fat, heat production increase because mitochondrial inborn fat have transmembrane protein thermogenin in their inner membrane. Thermogenin permit backflow of protein from the intermembranous space by passing ATP synthase system. So they are not producing ATP. So instead of that, they are generating heat. Inherited defect in oxidative phosphorylation. Some mutation can happen for mitochondrial DNA are responsible for several diseases, including some cases of mitochondrial myopathy, defective for the muscles, and Leber hereditary optic neuropathy, a disease in which bilateral loss of central vision occur as a result of neuroretinal degeneration, including damage to the optic nerve, so they can blind, it's a blind. Mitochondrial DNA is maternally inherited because mitochondria from the sperm cell do not enter the cell. So the females inherit this disease for maternal DNA. So this is just last question. Last try to read it. Which of the following statement about the combustion of glucose with oxygen to form water and carbon dioxide is correct? Please read it. Answer it. Answer this. Thank you.